So I know that just having come into the group to do this live, I can see that Helen posted something about imposter syndrome. Earlier today, I think, based on the timing, but Facebook might have it wrong, which is really apt. And do go and have a look at it. If you didn't see it, it's a lovely story about somebody going to an event that was full of all the great and the good and awards or whatever type event, and got talking to someone who said, oh yes, you know, all these people have achieved great things. All I did was go where I was told to go. And it was Neil Armstrong. And this person sort of thought, well, if Neil Armstrong feels like an imposter and he was the first person to walk on the moon, then maybe we all do. So what a lovely story. Because you often, if you do any research on imposter syndrome, which I have done, I've written about it in my book, I've written about it in various articles and things before and done talks on it. There's a lot of write-ups about imposter syndrome to do with women, and you can find loads of famous women who talk very openly about imposter syndrome. So what I loved about what Helen's posted is that it's about a man. It's a famous man, Neil Armstrong, because I work with a lot of male coaching clients as well, lawyers, and believe me, they all have imposter syndrome too. They really do. Statistically, apparently it's much higher in women, but do you know what? In our profession, I don't see it. I see it equally across men and women. So, and I know we have men in the group too. So yeah, big topic this week with lots of my clients has been imposter syndrome. Some very experienced lawyers are talking to me about imposter syndrome this week. And you know what? I know what it's like. I'm a week and a half into co-owning a law firm for the first time, and my imposter syndrome's going crazy. You know, it hasn't really even sunk in. I don't really even sort of, you know, I can't even imagine. I'm going to an event tomorrow and, you know, I'm sure there'll be the whole, what do you do? And I don't even know where to start telling people that. Like, oh yeah, for almost 2 weeks now, I've been the third wheel of a law firm. It just doesn't, you know, I can't even compute that yet or know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with it, and totally feel not old enough to own a law firm. So there you go. I know the feeling. And when I talk about imposter syndrome, and I know I've done videos on it before, I often say it doesn't go away with experience. And this is the difference between confidence and imposter syndrome for me, is that we can grow in confidence as we get more experienced in what we do. You know, in terms of my confidence as a commercial property lawyer, it's not bad. I've been doing it for 16, 17 years. I have confidence most of the time in what I'm doing, and I know when I am out of my comfort zone and I need some advice from somebody else, and I'm very confident to go and get that advice from somebody else. I'm confident to say, that's not my area of expertise. I'm happy to step out of that or bring in an expert. So confidence, as I say, tends to grow with our experience, and we have less of an issue with it, generally speaking. Whereas imposter syndrome tends to get worse the more experienced we get. Imposter syndrome isn't something that gets less with experience or age. Imposter syndrome tends to grow, and the research tells us that, and I can tell you that from the clients that I work with. So yeah, imposter syndrome, hugely common. If you've got my book, you'll have some of my tips on how to deal with it. Just to throw in a few here in case you haven't. My top tips are, first of all, to recognise it. Recognise when imposter syndrome is stopping you from doing something. And I remember this about a year ago, maybe, when there was a programme I was going to launch. It was my mastermind, actually, I think. When I was going to launch my mastermind last March, so a year and a half ago, I knew there were things I should be doing. I should be posting about it. I should be writing articles. I should be talking to people about it. And I remember getting up one morning and thinking, right, I'm shoulding a lot. And as a coach, you know, I pick it up with my clients and I have to pick it up with myself. I said, you know what you ought to be doing, and yet you're not. So why? And I had to sit there and really have a bit of a think about it. And I journaled. That helps me if I'm trying to problem solve for myself. I wrote, you know, I sort of held the question, why am I not doing what I know I ought to be doing? and wrote down what came to me. And it did. That's what came out at the end of it was, my apologies, little things keep popping up I'm trying to get rid of. I wrote, and what came out of that writing was, you feel huge imposter syndrome in setting up this program. You're sort of thinking, who am I to be bringing together these great, fantastic people and thinking that you can support them in any sort of way. So there was huge imposter syndrome, and that's what was stopping me from doing the things that I wanted to do and knew that I needed to do to get this program off the ground. So my first tip for you with imposter syndrome is to recognize that that's what it is. Because I always say, realization is half the battle. Once your mind has realized something, it will automatically start trying to deal with it. But some other proactive steps you can take for imposter syndrome, and I know my clients do this, is things like look for the alternative evidence. When we feel like we're an imposter, or when we feel anything bad about ourselves, we're really good at looking for evidence to back that up. It might be, oh, well, that person is way better than me. That person is a much better technical lawyer than me. And we look for that evidence. And no doubt, whatever we look for, we will find. That's the way it works. So instead, look for evidence of your greatness, if you like. Look for those testimonials from clients, capture them, keep them in a folder called whatever you want. It can be a physical one. You could print them off and keep them if you're trying to save paper, email folder. So any nice testimonials or comments you get from clients, even if they're verbal, email them to yourself. Because yes, you could use them for your appraisal times and on your website, etc. But you can also use them to go to remind yourself when you've got that imposter syndrome. Instead of looking for the evidence that it's true, look for the evidence that it's not true. So look for all the things. And this is what I love doing with my coaching clients, because they'll talk about how they don't think they're good enough at this, or they don't think they're good enough at that. And I remember the things they tell me, and I know how good they are. I had this exact conversation with someone today, and in fact, twice this week I've had the same conversation, which is, I know how good you are, because I pick up the little things you tell me about how your firm is so desperate to keep you that they've done X, Y, and Z way over above what they might have done for other people. They actively ask you what you need, what you want to change, what they need to do to make sure that you're happy there. They give you the very difficult clients that no one else can deal with, things like that. When I hear things like that, I know people are good. So I know when my clients are really good, and I can sort of feed that back to them and give them that evidence. So look for those things for yourself if you want to counteract a bit of imposter syndrome. But I'd love to know what you think about imposter syndrome. Does it impact you? Does it only pop up in certain circumstances? And this is an activity you can do, for yourself. Look for where it pops up. So as I say, recognize it and look for what sort of situations the imposter syndrome might be popping up, because that can be interesting as well. Do feel free to share it in the group, or you can send me a message privately if you want to. Very happy to explore that with you a little bit. So that's imposter syndrome.